What it do, Dream Team? It's your boy Neal and
Mackenzie.
Back with another reaction video, guys. We are back with Caitlin Amanda and her channel, Kinda Australia. 10 lies Americans are told about Australia. What do you think a couple of these lies might be?
I don't know.
I think, I've seen it, so. But I don't remember this. I don't remember all 10 lies, but I feel like it's definitely going to be something about, like, the dangerous animals killing people or whatever.
Well, probably.
And they're going to be like, that doesn't happen. And then the other 9, I can't remember. And I could be wrong about that one. But before we jump in, make sure you subscribe, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up. What we got?
G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Caitlin and I'm an American living in beautiful Sydney, Australia. Before moving over to Australia, there are definitely some myths about Australia that as an American I believe were true. And there are some flat out lies that I've been told by Aussies and just lies that Americans actually believe about Australia. Now some of these are just Aussies having a little...
That they ride kangaroos to school.
That's one of the more obvious ones too. I can't believe I didn't think of saying that.
I didn't either until I don't know, it just clicked when she started talking.
But god dang, yeah, that is a lie that we're told about Australia. By Australians.
Yep. That's why when she said lies I've been told about Aussies, I was like, That's it.
A little bit of fun and poking a bit of fun at Americans who really don't know anything about Australia. And some of this is definitely from the media, from cartoons that we've seen. Here are 10 lies that Americans have been told about Australia. So grab a bicky, grab a cuppa, and let's jump right into this video. So we're just going to get the first one, the most obvious one out of the way, and that is that everything in Australia is trying to kill you. I have to say, as an American who's lived in Sydney for over a year now, I can say for certain that I have come across one deadly animal the entire time I've been here, and even then it's not really that deadly to adults, and that is a redback spider over here. Well, it doesn't mean that Australia isn't home to some deadly snakes and some venomous spiders and sharks and jellyfish and crocs, but overall this isn't something that the average everyday Aussie is going to run into over here. No one's fighting a croc on their way to school or running from a brown snake on their way to work. You're probably not going to find a funnel web spider hiding in a woolly somewhere ready to bite you. So Americans have this overblown concept that you're constantly going to be running into deadly and dangerous animals over in Australia.
Yeah.
If you're like me and you live in a pretty populated area, pretty close to a city, which the vast majority of Aussies do, you're probably not going to be running into deadly snakes and spiders on a regular basis. Will you see them? Most likely, yeah, especially if you're somebody who wants to get out and travel a little bit, go on bushwalks, check out the beaches and whatnot. You might eventually run into a shark or a snake, or if you decide to go up to Darwin, be careful because there are crocs pretty much everywhere near water up there. But just because there are deadly animals here in Australia, it doesn't mean you will run into them all the time. And to be honest, most Aussies aren't really too concerned about running into a deadly snake or spider in everyday life. The next myth is that it is so...
Yeah, I feel like when you're just told that about all the deadly, even if they don't kill people, when you're told about all the deadly things that are out there, I guess you just kind of assume that they are everywhere. You just do got to be scared all the time until you watch some of these videos and it's like, oh, like, well, yeah, they're there, but they never kill humans. Like,
right. They're not as bad as we think they are.
Exactly. It's like they're capable of it, but you're rarely going to run into one of these ever. So that's not a worry that you have to have. Unless you like in the Outback or in the bush where you might run into these animals. But yeah.
Expensive to live in Australia. Now, if you're going to look at Australia and every single other country in the world, yeah, Australia is pretty expensive, but compared to America and compared to the average 10-year cost that you would spend living 10 years in the States compared to 10 years in Australia, it's actually a little bit cheaper to live in Australia than it is in the States. Even though Aussies do have to pay a Medicare levy, or even if you choose to get private health insurance, it's so much cheaper and it covers so much more. If you get sick within the 10-year period in the States, you're going to have to pay quite a hefty bill for the vast majority of Americans. On top of that, health insurance in general costs more, plus you have deductibles that you have to pay. And besides that, food costs more. Just
talk about that with your mom, huh?
Yeah, because she tore her, what was it,
ACL?
Yeah, her ACL, and we have insurance, but because it's the beginning of the year or something like that, like she has to pay like almost $600 just for an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went and done that this morning. She had to pay almost $600 out of pocket just to get an MRI, so that she can have surgery and get it fixed.
Yep. Because I think it was like a deductible. She has to pay a certain amount before insurance will kick in and pay anything. And which is crazy, because if I'm paying you monthly, I'm paying you insurance monthly, why do I have to pay this much before y'all will kick in and help out? Take it out of my monthly payments.
Yep, right?
It's crazy. I don't get that, yeah.
Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't make it to where, like you said, just make payments on it.
Yeah.
But try to pay it up front.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Definitely understand what she's talking about with healthcare. Healthcare, I completely agree with. All the other countries that be cutting our healthcare, I agree with y'all. It is awful.
Yeah, because when she told me how much it was, I was like, what is the insurance doing?
Exactly.
What are they covering?
On my last cell phone I had, because we had insurance at one point, and then I had broken it or something, and we had to go in and pay like $250 to replace it. And my dad was like talking to her. He's like, "What's the point of insurance if I'm gonna have to come in and pay all this if something happened?" So next time he just got me a new phone and got an OtterBox on it. He said, "That's your insurance, son."
Yeah, and we just got brand new phones, the most updated phones, and we paid for insurance.
Yeah. So insurance just be trying to cheat you out of money. I don't know who came up with the thought of insurance, but God, they take more than they give. I'll say that.
For sure. For sure.
Video recently on the grocery costs, and it's actually more for groceries over in the States than it is here in Australia. And a lot of people in my comments have pointed out that part of the reason this myth exists is because a lot of Americans come over to Australia and they just go to the touristy section. So of course, restaurants are going to cost more. The grocery stores in the CBD areas are going to cost more. If you're doing touristy things, it's just naturally going to be more expensive because they know that you'll pay for it because of the area that you're staying in. And more than likely, if you're visiting Australia, it's probably a once-in-a-lifetime trip for a lot of Americans. So there's this perceived notion that it's so much more expensive to live in Australia, but really it's actually a little bit cheaper. So I'll be frank, you guys, I've had mostly women over in America ask this or point this out, and that's the notion that Aussies, particularly a lot of Aussie men, are either the typical surfer bro types, the whole blonde hair, blue eye, beach body types, or they're basically Mick Dundee, Crocodile Dundee. That's definitely the stereotype, and I know so many Aussies who are nothing like that at all. I recently married an Aussie who is nothing like that at all. At the end of the day, Aussies are just as varied and culturally different as Americans. Australia is a huge culturally diverse country. And there are people with different backgrounds, different religions, different races, and people grew up in different types of homes and different environments. You're going to find the good, you're going to find the bad, you're going to find a ton of people in between as well. So no, not all Aussies are the blonde hair, blue eye surfer types, and not all of them are basically little versions of Crocodile Dundee. The fourth one comes so much from...
I feel like every country has their stereotypes kind of like that.
Yeah.
When a lot of people think about American stereotypes, they think about fat, they think about country. Like every time somebody does an American accent, it's always the happy white girl or the country accent. Yes. It's either, oh my God, da, da, da. No, yes. Or it's very country.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Exactly. That's like it's like no, we're very different, bro. Like she said, we're very diverse, but
yeah, like the stupid part, come on.
Yeah, every country just has their.
Some of us are.
I guess it depends. Like, I told her the other day, like, my brother and my siblings used to clown me, like, because I was always very book smart, like, school, A's, everything came easy, but I lacked a lot in common sense. So they was like, for you to be that smart, you so stupid.
I feel like I'm not dumb by no means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean those videos, my weak spot. But you have to realize, I mean, I've not been in school for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So
same here.
The memory is not very great.
Yeah.
But in school, and my mom has like in her attic, she has like all of our tests, and I made straight A's.
Yeah.
All throughout school. Exactly. I was a very great student. But, memory fades.
Memory, if you don't use it, you lose it. I feel the same way as you. I don't know a lot. Like,
but I have common sense more than he does.
I agree with that. I do, because sometimes I just be like so frustrated dealing with something or doing something. She'll be like, well, why don't you just do that? And I'll be like, oh.
And then he like praises me so much. He's like, you're just so amazing. You're just so great. And I'm like, it was common sense.
I've always lacked common sense, bro. I don't know why. I just always lacked common sense.
Yeah, it's like when we be trying to like do different things for these videos for y'all. And he's like trying to figure it out and do this and that. I'm like, well, why don't you just do this? And he's like, oh, I didn't think of that.
That's a good idea.
I'm like, that's common sense. I thought you were going to do that from the jump.
I just lack it. I lack common sense and I lack creativity. Two things I desperately wish I had.
I'm very creative.
Yes. So I'm so glad she's a part of this channel because she is very creative. Thumbnails are 100% much better now. Now the videos we make, I absolutely love the format and the way we make videos now. She just has all these ideas about things to do.
I just be seeing other people's videos and...
Yeah. But continue, Caitlin.
American commercials, and that is Australians drink Foster's beer, because the slogan is Foster's, Australian for beer, and that's really the only sort of Aussie beer that Americans ever hear about or know about. When it comes to spirits and breweries and distilleries, typically a lot of Americans don't really know that much about Australian alcohol. I mean, I have a bottle up here of Yellowtail, and there's only 3 major types of wines that you can get at pretty much any wine and spirit store over in the States. And I call them wine and spirit stores because that's what they were called in Pennsylvania, where I was from. But you basically just get Yellowtail, 19 Crimes, and Fisheye. You're not going to get a huge variety of Australian alcohol, and that includes beer and wine as well. So a lot of Americans think that Aussies drink Foster's, and ironically, even though Foster's was invented in Melbourne, it was actually invented by 2 Irish-American brothers who came over. So technically it's a beer that's made by Americans, even though it was made in Australia. But if you're coming to Australia, don't go to a pub and ask for a Foster's. If you're not sure, hell, ask the bartender. They can probably give you some great recommendations as to what to drink. But please don't waste your money. Don't waste your time on Foster's beer here. If you really want to try some classic beers, and I'm talking like old school beers, go for a VB. Go for a 4X's or a 2E's. I've even heard Cascade is really, really good. There are so many other beers you can have besides Foster's. Number 5 is that Outback Steakhouse is basically Aussie food. It's not whatsoever. Do Aussies love steak and barbecues? Yes, absolutely. I know so many Aussies who love steak, who love meat, who love to barbecue, who love to grill, as we also call it over in the States. But to be honest, things like the bloomin' onion really isn't a super traditional, popular dish over here in Australia. You're not going to find meat pies on any Outback Steakhouse menu, but that's one of the most iconic and classic Aussie foods without it being a brand of food like Shapes or Vegemite or Tim Tams. They might have like brownie sundaes and cheesecake, that generic sort of American dessert stuff on their menu, but a lot of Aussies over here, when it comes to desserts, they think of things like pavlova and rum balls if it's Christmas, and Christmas puddings and whatnot. That's more the traditional Aussie dessert than you will really find in any Outback Steakhouse menu. So no, Outback Steakhouse is not Aussie cuisine whatsoever. In fact, Outback Steakhouse was found...
I've never been to Outback Steakhouse.
Really?
Mm-mm. You been to one?
Mm-hmm.
Was it good?
Mm-hmm.
We got steak?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to it. Y'all got one close to here?
I think so.
We'll have to go at some point. Yeah.
I'll have to look it up after this video.
I've never gotten a chance, but I'd love to go.
In Florida, it's very, very gimmicky, and to be honest, really has nothing to do with Australia other than the fact that they have steak on their menu. Number 6 is that Aussies live in the Outback. The vast majority of Aussies actually live along the coast. Over 90% of Australians' land is considered uninhabitable, and the vast majority of that land is considered the Outback. The Outback is dry and barren and inhospitable. It's not a place where you can grow food. Water is pretty scarce. So over 85% of Australia's population lives along the coast. And typically that's within a 1 to 2 hour drive of a beach, of a huge body of water. You're really not going to find that many Aussies that live in the Outback. You might find a couple towns. I think the biggest town that's like within the Outback area is probably Alice Springs. But really, you're not going to find a lot of Aussies who live in the Outback. The vast majority of Aussies don't live in the Outback. This next myth is that it is hot all year round in Australia, and I was guilty of this. I really did believe that Australia was a typically constantly hot, humid climate. But Australia is actually the same size as the mainland US, and you have to remember just how varied the climate is in the States. It's really varied over here as well. You'll find snow, you'll find hail, you'll find rainy places, you'll find dry places. You'll find mountains, you'll find beaches, you'll find desert, you'll find rainforest. There is a huge array of climates over here. It's not always going to be hot and sunny, and for my Americans, about 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit on a regular basis. Yes, the summers can get extremely hot in some places. If you're in Darwin or Perth, you're probably used to those 40 to 50 degree days when there's a huge heat wave in those areas. Whereas if you're in Tasmania, I remember I was there for a heat wave and it barely hit 90 degrees for my Americans. So there's a huge difference, and the climates vary so much over here. You do get all 4 seasons over here depending on where you live. Or if you live in Melbourne, you get all 4 seasons in one day. Just like in the States, there are places where the climates vary, and you're going to find that all across the country. It's not always going to be hot and sunny and perfect beach weather here. Now, this one's going to be a little controversial.
I feel like a lot of times you do end up thinking like it's just really hot everywhere over there.
Yeah, I feel like for me, no matter what, I'm going to say it's hot over there.
Yeah.
Because that's hot for me.
She don't do heat.
Yeah. Y'all have to know this by now.
Exactly. But yeah.
So,
and so it only makes sense, of course, the weather is varied depending on what part of Australia you're in. Obvious. It is almost as big as America, so.
Yes. Now, as far as like in the house, like I said, we keep it 61. But as far as like outside temperature, if it's 70, it's too hot for me.
Are you serious? That's gorgeous.
If it's in the 60s,
weather.
like it's gorgeous to me.
70 is beautiful.
It's like heaven. Then once they hit 70, that means the sweat starts popping out.
Oof. Once you get in them 50s, it's a little too chilly for me.
60s is where it's at for me. In the home, outside of the home. No.
60s ain't bad. You just
especially when we're in the 8s right now. Like it's 8 degrees.
Yeah.
14
that
degrees.
sucked, bro. Had me pulling out the gloves in this weather.
Yes, we go to Walmart and this man wearing gloves, his hoodie over his head, sweatpants. He's like layered up. And I'm just like, I walked out with a pair of leggings and a really, really, really thin shirt.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you not cold?" Like, I'm all right. I'm not freezing.
I'll be freezing, bro. I'm like, I wear a hoodie and sweats every day.
Like here I am wearing that
day.
exact outfit. We're at Walmart. We're in the parking lot putting our groceries up, and so there was ice covering the car. So when we lifted the trunk, it started breaking it. Mm-hmm. And so he's like standing there watching me, and I'm just like picking the ice apart with my hands.
Bare hands.
Like just having the time of my life picking this ice apart.
Bro,
and he's like, "Are you not freezing?" I'm like, "I'm good."
She be ready to put them ice hands on me. I'd be like, "Don't touch me with
It'd be
them
so
hands,
funny
bro."
to watch him squirm.
I don't do cold. If she tells you cold feet or cold hands, bro, I be ready to fight.
Like, he'll be washing dishes, and I'll come up, like, behind him and put my hand underneath his shirt, and he starts flipping out.
Yes, bro. It's cold.
It's
like,
so funny to watch him squirm. Like, we chase each other around the house.
I don't do cold. I'm cold right now. My hands are cold right now.
But he, again, if you could see his whole body, he's layered.
Yes. I gotta be. But we gonna finish the video. I'm sorry.
On just a tiny bit political, you guys. But number 8 is that Australia is considered a nanny state. So with COVID and the lockdowns and whatnot, a lot of Americans saw Australia at its absolute worst, which is when people were locked down in their homes. They couldn't go more than 5Ks away. They couldn't visit relatives or friends or family outside of that 5K radius. And another one that I hear all the time is, oh, Australia took away the guns. Guns are banned in Australia, so it's such a nanny state over there. To be honest, there's more freedom over here in Australia than there is in the States. Having the right to bear arms doesn't necessarily make you more free. Because there were stricter rules enforced during COVID doesn't necessarily mean that you're more free in general either. That doesn't mean that you live in a nanny state. Let's be fair, America's a pretty nanny state as well, if you're going to start comparing it that way. Like, America's actually one of the most invasive countries when it comes to freedoms and rights, even abroad. As an American abroad, I have to pay taxes and I have to declare to every single bank that I ever go to outside of the US that I'm an American citizen. Not just for regular generic record-keeping purposes, but because America actually goes to all of these banks and requests records for any American that is abroad. So if you're not American and you've opened a bank account recently and wondered why you had to check a box maybe that said you're not American, that's why America actually has its hands in all of these corporate banks around the world. Thank you, FATCA. So, no.
All America care about is money. Money. Huh?
We've been saying that.
That's just the number one. I think the entire world knows it. They don't care if they ripping off their citizens. They don't care if they go into other countries and stealing resources. That money is what America. That is the number one priority here in America.
For sure.
No, I've lived in Australia for a year now, and Australia is more free than it is in the States. I definitely wouldn't call it a nanny state, and when you look at the state of a lot of other countries in the world, it's kind of ridiculous to consider.
You know what nanny state means?
Mm-mm.
I never heard like the term nanny state. I don't know what that means.
Australia a nanny state. Moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted, and that is that you will see kangaroos and koalas everywhere in Australia. I've been here for a year and I haven't seen a single koala, which is actually kind of sad and upsetting because I do really want to see a koala in the wild at some point. I don't really know where to go to see those though, and maybe we're just visiting the wrong places or we're at the wrong times, but yeah, I haven't seen a koala at all in the year that I've been here, and we've traveled to quite a few places around New South Wales and Canberra. But as far as kangaroos go, you're mostly going to see them as roadkill, to be honest. You're going to find a lot of kangaroo that are dead along the side of the road. That's probably going to be the first kangaroo you experience over here in Australia, which is a bit of a bummer. It's a bit of a letdown to see that, but it's the truth. Kangaroo are kind of similar to deer over in the States. They're kind of pests, and chances are the first time you see them, it'll probably be roadkill. And there aren't a ton of kangaroos everywhere. I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen kangaroo and still have fingers left over. Yeah, don't come over to Australia expecting to see kangaroos and koalas everywhere outside of the cities. It's a lot tougher to find them than you think. And the last one, let's just get this one out there because it made me laugh that somebody had actually asked me this when I moved over here. Toilets in Australia do not flush backwards. I can't believe that's something that people are still asking, even though it's been years and years since The Simpsons came out with that episode about Australia. But no, the toilets in Australia do not flush backwards. In fact, it entirely depends on the mechanisms that are within your toilet, so they can flush either way. In the States, they can flush either way here. That is definitely something that The Simpsons made up and is not true. So that's it for this video, you guys. 10 lies that Americans have been told about Australia. Were you expecting these? Were there any that surprised you? Let me know in the comments down below, you guys. If you could, please hit the like and subscribe button, especially the like button, because apparently now YouTube also really cares about likes and comments more so than they did before. So if you did like this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like, you guys. And
y'all heard what she said. They care about these likes and comments, so like and comment. Also, sorry about eating during that whole video. I just be needing a snack. But I'll be locked in. I just be needing a snack while I'm locked in.
Yes.
But that's all we got. These 10 lies. I can't believe people. I guess I can understand people thinking the toilets will flush backwards from a cartoon. We're gullible. We're naive. Make sure you subscribe, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up. We out.